our relationships, and if we're not careful, we will allow our actions to really either enhance or to deteriorate what potentially could have been a healthy relationship. So today, let's talk more specifically about how our activities within a relationship are actually put into motion. How do you activate your life, and how you activate it, how does that dictate the outcome of your behaviors? Whether you're talking about events, people, smells, attitudes, or other type things that put you and those in your life in motion, you're talking about the activators. So when you talk about events, when you talk about people, smells, attitudes, and similar things, we're simply saying, what are the actions that puts life in motion for you? Now keep in mind, what activates one person may not necessarily activate another person. Events, people, smells, attitudes that are within your environment will impact your activation and your behaviors, but not necessarily those of another person. These are what we call summarily stimuluses. So when you look at the stimuli or the stimuluses, keep in mind no behavior or activation or activity can take place without a stimulus. In other words, if it does not do something inside of you, it's not probably going to impact your day. Let's talk about that activating energy just for a few seconds. Energy forms that reaches our various sensors activate receptors, and it triggers a level of action, or what we would call an activating event. Now, those things can be activated by sight, sound, smell, touch. So keep in mind, the things that activate are through the sensors of the body. Events that are not essential, events that are not priorities, events that are 3 or more degrees removed from self. You know, we talk about the 7 degrees of separation between people. You know somebody I know that knows somebody you knows. When you move about 3 or 4 degrees away from who you really know close, for the most part, those people's actions do not really activate or trigger much inside of you. Normally, they do not trigger people into action because there's no stimulus involved. And keep in mind that if it does not stimulate you to action, it probably really won't rock many people's worlds outside of who you are as well. In other words, don't be so quick to conclude that what you do, who you are, is going to impact many people beyond 3 degrees, 4 degrees at most away from you. How events activate inside of people, let's talk about that just briefly. Events of substance must exist to trigger or to activate anything. Now, that's true in every realm of life. One must possess a level of awareness specific to the event. Now, let's couple what I first said with the second statement. Events of substance must exist to trigger or to activate a response from any individual. Now, when you combine that with one must possess a level of awareness specific to the event, if there is no knowledge, or if there's a lack of concrete knowledge of substance, then how you respond to the event is probably going to be inappropriate at best. One's ability to describe their awareness of the event, not to others, but to self. So what is your ability to process? How do you process life? How do you process events? How do you process the behaviors? How do you process the words of others? Those abilities to process correctly will determine how you will respond, or how that external stimulus will cause you to respond to what's said, to what's done around you. One's interpretation of the event, again, not as others see it, but your own internalization of those events. You've got to have an ability, I must have an ability, to process the events as they impact me. It is my interpretation of the event or of what is said that will determine my response. Your activating event to me may be just, hello, it's a good day. But I may see that as a sarcastic saying. And you will wonder, well, why am I so upset with you saying, hello, it's a good day? So it's how I interpret the event that everybody must keep in mind triggers activation and how we respond to those stimuli. In the book of Jeremiah chapter 9, in the book of Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 9 and verse 10, the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? That sounds almost like what we're talking about with the activated events. Because no individual, not one, is perfect in every way. How we see and how we process behaviors, words, actions, and even the environment around us, to a large degree, is going to dictate how individuals respond to the behaviors that are being put into the environment. And depending on background, depending on exposure, depending on prior experience with certain stimuli, it will dictate to a larger degree your response. And those become our activating behaviors. It could be kind, it could be silent, it could be sarcastic, it could be combative. It's determined by how we process what is happening environmentally around us. Keep in mind how events activate inside of a person is going to drive how it hits the world. You cannot control how other people think, nor can you control how other people feel. And one of the little known facts, you cannot control how people will respond to environmental stimuli. Because from day to day to day, how a person feels will change. One day you could say hello to a person and they respond favorably. Tomorrow you could say hello to the same individual and they will wonder, why are they speaking to me? So keep in mind, as we look at behavior and relationships, we're dealing with complex individuals, number one, and with the complexity of who we are as individuals, as Jeremiah states in chapter 17, verses 9 and 10, who can really know the heart of a person? And because there's this ongoing determiner inside of individuals about the stimuli that's being put before them, it will basically keep us in a mode of ever learning people. And as an individual, it will also force you and me to constantly be aware of how our personal behaviors will definitely impact relationships day by day